First, a quick question for all of you. Whom of you have used Smalltalk in the past or are using Smalltalk? So I'm going to do some in-depth things of Smalltalk. So it would be handy if you would know a bit of Smalltalk.
And otherwise just ask.
No,
okay.
I've seen enough of two presentations. Yeah, I don't use Smalltalk at all.
You should. It's a very fun language.
Yeah, I just came into semester.
First, a quick introduction about myself. I'm Wouter Gazendam. I'm a co-founder of AG5. We're a full Smalltalk company since 2000. So we've been doing non-stop Smalltalking for almost 13 years, I think. In the past we also used the name Cosmo Cows. Perhaps some of you may remember that one from the past. And we are based in Amsterdam and Berlin. And AG5 develops a web-based skills management application. It's a very complex application, and we keep track of how good people are trained for all sorts of highly trained professions, fire departments, industrial safety, and stuff like that. So in the past, we built a huge Smalltalk code base, which we still are supporting in a web-based application. And this leads us to the part why we started actually Gravel, because we have lots of Smalltalk code and we want to run on Java. And we are not going to rewrite that because that will take many, many years. And we will introduce many bugs. And I don't like Java, I like to program in Smalltalk. The main reason we currently are looking away from Visualworks to another platform is we want to have good multi-core support, and we want to integrate with the whole Java library infrastructure with all the good stuff that is made out there. So what is Gravel Smalltalk? Gravel Smalltalk is a Smalltalk that is running on the JVM. We implemented it using the now infamous invoke dynamic instruction that is new in Java 1.7. It was introduced by the JSR 292. And we try to develop Gravel Smalltalk itself, the whole compiler infrastructure in Smalltalk, the whole Gravel infrastructure. And we have lots of features like traits, namespaces, optional typing, closures that are working correctly, and resumable exceptions. And we open source the project under an Apache 2.0 license, which we may change because some people are saying that the MIT license is better, but I digress. We also have some things in Gravel clearly absent. If you are coming from a Smalltalk world, sometimes it's you may know the become operator, the all instances operator, or the special variable this context. Currently, we do not support that in Gravel Smalltalk, and the main reason is performance. To correctly implement those semantics in Gravel Smalltalk on the JVM would mean that we would lose all the speed benefits of what the JVM can do for us. If we find a good way to implement it, we might change it. I'm going to tell you a bit about the Gravel internals. First, how we actually develop the compiler infrastructure of Gravel itself. We started developing Gravel in Visualworks, and we all built a parser compiler infrastructure in Smalltalk itself. And we once developed a type annotation system, an optional type annotation system that was inspired by Strongtalk called Pegan. And it allows us to add type annotations to VisualWorks source code. And we use that to transform the Smalltalk source code to Java source code. I have a small example over here which actually wraps around the screen. I have a method called method mapping for selector, and I'm going to see if I can move the image actually on screen. So we have above is the method mapping from selector. This is the Smalltalk source. It is annotated with those curly braces type annotations. These are the parameter types, and this is the return type, which is an abstract method mapping or nil. And this is the Smalltalk source, and it will generate this Java source out of it. Let's see if I can get my window back. So we try to develop as much of the system in Smalltalk itself, because I don't like Java. We developed a patching compiler with the idea that in an interactive Smalltalk environment, you would like to change behavior when you're developing in it. So, and we would like to use Java objects that come out of the libraries that we use, like some list comes out of a library and it enters the Smalltalk code, and we want to use that array list as a real Smalltalk object. So you want to you would like to be able to detect or select or one of the acts on those kind of objects. You cannot hot add methods on the JVM, and we want to be able to change all kind of things. So we started a concept called the patching compiler. And the patching compiler allows us to, from the Smalltalk perspective, to add and remove and change behavior. And that's purely because the JSR gives us full control over the method lookup. So we can decide that some old method is no longer valid from our Gravel's perspective, and now a new method or a different method is valid, or the lookup chain has changed. This gives us the possibility to change Smalltalk code on a running JVM. Next, to get Gravel running, we need some sort of base library. What we actually are doing is we are recycling, we are using the ST80 base classes from Squeak, and we are getting those source codes from Squeak and importing them in special packages in VisualWorks, and then write all those code out of VisualWorks again. We found this great package called the ANSI DB. It's actually a machine-readable format of the whole Smalltalk ANSI standard, which describes what kind of protocols you can expect in a normal Smalltalk system, and what kind of selectors should be implemented, and what kind of behavior there should be. We use that to automatically generate tests, and actually we don't test that much. You see a generated test over here. It runs with some example values. So this is the test for the selector called asBag, and certain kinds of objects should be able to respond to a message like that. Things like an ordered collection or an array or other collection types. So self values will iterate over some example values. We just perform the selector and we test whether the result is anything sensible. So we don't do any semantic checks whether the result is anything sensible next to a simple type check. But using these tests, we can pretty easily recreate what is needed to have a base Smalltalk system in Gravel. And what we need, we copy from Squeak. We then split things up if the definition is part of the trait part, what we call it, or the actual implementation part. Because in Gravel we use the trait system, and we in Gravel we think that an ordered collection defines something of the public protocol of the base library. So the ordered collection, from our view, is a trait. And so the actual implementation of the ordered collection is a class you wouldn't instantiate yourself normally. It's an ordered collection impl, and that contains the actual private logic for using this ordered collection. And ordered collection impl is the default implementation for this trait. So sending ordered collection new will yield an ordered collection impl. Most of the implementation comes from Squeak. We can also use these traits that we have built to look at the Java environment, and if we identify certain Java classes that sort of correspond to Smalltalk classes, then we can have the, for example, the Java util array list, we can have it conform to this trait, so that every utility method that you will add to the ordered collection trait will be available on an array list that will enter your Gravel system. We've started the development of Gravel in October last year. At this point, we have the generated ANSI tests working, which means that the largest part of the base library is working. That's actually a lie, because we don't have the file protocol tests working, and that's because the ANSI standard has a very weird thing about file protocols, and I think Squeak and Visualworks also don't conform to the ANSI standard in that respect. We also have ported some libraries to test the system. We could, with very little adaptation, we moved SUnit to our system, and we use SUnit to run tests on Gravel Smalltalk. I somewhere found an implementation of Delta Blue on the internet to check the performance of Gravel Smalltalk, and I found an implementation of the Richards benchmark. And we actually started on a first idea of a Gravel IDE, because I don't actually like programming in Java now. I also don't like programming in Eclipse. I really love the power of the refactoring browser, of using a debugger and things like that. So things we have not done at this point yet, which is, first thing is we want to look into Truffle. We have Stefan Marr. We're very interested in what the SOM actually is going to do, but so that's something we really like to experiment with, because it looks like very promising technology. Another thing we really want to do, because we have the luxury of being a very new language, so we don't have to do things like support and stuff. is do something good once and for all, and that is kill all the globals in a way that like Newspeak does, because I really like Smalltalk, but I don't like globals in Smalltalk. What we also have to get working is the live debugging. Problem with live debugging is the limitations of the JVM. You cannot, in an image itself, you cannot re-instantiate the stack, for instance. You can only monitor the stack from an older JVM via a sort of debugging port. There are some tricks possible how we can get live debugging working. It's hard. We're working on that. If anyone has a good idea how to get really good debugging on the JVM, I really love to hear it. Next step is for us is if we can work in Gravel itself, we will make it self-hosting so that we some parts of the code, for instance, the code that transforms the type annotated compiler Smalltalk to Java is currently VisualWorks only. So if you would somehow change the compiler, you cannot generate it in Gravel itself at this point. So that sort of concludes what Gravel is today and where we hope we will be going. I'd like to say thanks to, well, it's about saying thanks to the whole idea of open source, because we couldn't have built this in a few months' time if there wasn't that enormous amount of ideas freely available on the net, like the whole Smalltalk Squeak environment and the JSR stuff and everything over here. And I also like to thank the Fosdem people for giving me the opportunity to give a speech over here. So, thanks to that, I'll give a short demo of a of Gravel Smalltalk. We'll first switch my monitor back into Does anyone know how to get the Mac to monitor my screen over here?
No.
Do I see that button over here?
On the other screen is it?
On screen?
It's always on the other screen.
On the other? It's also not over here actually.
Try the other windows.
Arrangement?
Some other window.
Arrangement? Mirror
displays.
Okay, thank you. That's better.
Thank you.
I'll get Eclipse. I hope this is readable for you. Over here I have one Maven project that contains the all the Gravel sources over here. It contains the Java code and the Smalltalk code. These are actually those folders are a representation of VisualWorks packages. I'll try to start the web browser because that's the most interesting part.
May I interrupt?
Yeah.
Did you take a look at Redline Smalltalk?
Yeah, I did. Redline has a different approach. Our approach is mainly about speed, and Redline is not that focused on speed. So, so that's the reason why we didn't go the Redline way.
But you didn't mention any speed numbers.
I'm actually a bit cautious about naming speed numbers because I don't know how to do official benchmarks and stuff. What is actually interesting but those are unofficial numbers. We have the Delta Blue benchmark running faster than the Java. So we can run the Delta Blue code on the JVM in Smalltalk faster than the Java code is running. All thanks to the great hotspot optimizations of. Then again, you also had showed this problem with the richest benchmark, and it really performs like hell on our system. It's really bad. It's like 100 times slower than Java. So.
Well-known problems, Stefan?
I don't know yet.
3 more minutes.
Okay, I'm running out of time over here. I started my browser. The browser connects to Gravel Smalltalk. We've built this browser to actually get a view of the system itself. So it's a web-based sort of browser we have over here. On the left-hand side you have the packages, and in there you can see well, the classes that have been implemented, and you can view some source code. What we actually can do is add a method like foo and accept it, and it actually appears over here as the method foo. So now I have added the method foo to fraction. It's of course hard to get some feedback in a system when you have no debugging working, so I'll go the classical way of crashing your own IDE. So I'll try to I'm now viewing at the browser application class, and the browser application class is the actual thing you are seeing right now. Somewhere over here is a button called accept, and I like to use the French word for cheese. So when I accept this code, and it actually accepts it, my button is now called fromage. So I changed the source code of the code that renders the user interface, and now the method is changed. As you also can see, is that the formatting of the method has changed, and that's because it's now a sort of decompiled code, because we currently don't yet write back the changed source code to disk, so it's now decompiled code. So that's a quick demo of the Gravel system. Well, a small part of the Gravel system. Are there some questions?
How many people are working on this?
Currently, mainly myself, and a colleague has put in some extra hours, mainly in analyzing the squeak code to get the actual methods that we have to move over to Gravel, because we don't want to move over all the methods, because there's all sorts of legacy methods in them. So we only want to move over the methods that are needed to satisfy our tests. So so it's, I think, 1.5 guy. Some other questions? Yes?
So are you already using this in production, or is it?
We are planning to have it in production somewhere in first small systems in March or things like that. So it's we first started this as a research project to see if it was actually doable, and now that it seems to be doable, we will be using it in production. Okay, thank you.
That's a lot of work.
Ja.
Luchtje, wil jij niet terug? Ja,
Ja, misschien...
ik moet er nog wat mee doen straks, hè?
Oh ja, jij gaat straks weer...
Great job.
Thank you.
Robots?
Yes. Can I do the
Yes.
Thank you very much. I forgot it at home. Today I was like, then I suppose that you will have one.
Kijk, ik ben vader geworden. Oh, die kast is niet. Ja, dat is wel. Maar er was een kans dat ik niet kon zijn vanwege.
Ja, dat is
Ja. Nou, eigenlijk kon jullie zijn omdat ze te goed waren.
Oh. Ja. Nou, ik ben op druk.
Ja.
Okay. Resolution to
1024 times 768.
Sorry? It's always you just flickering in.
You're still holding up?
Yeah, that's fine. There's a little side. Just it's easy to be there. It's a volunteer work and yeah, because sometimes things go wrong and I'm gonna check. Which resolution? 800, 600. Could you put in 1024 to 768? I know why this box only takes one resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second one should be. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, they asked for the sheets to be at 800 times 600. Yes, that's
right. I
right,
just-
but,
Okay. No, it doesn't matter. You want? Yeah, my problem is that I'm using a VirtualBox. It's not that easy. I need to change both
yes,
configurations.
yeah, that's.
Actually, okay, we'll do something.
Looks like you could use a bit of power. Do you have the old style? Yes.
Yes, these are. Thank you.
No. Yes.
I don't think so. Okay. What the hell?
So this is why we have 5 minutes between
Yeah.
talk. It's simply needed to get those resolution things worked out.
Okay.
Yeah, and that one needs to be, yeah.
Problem.
60 hertz is nice, yeah, I guess. Yeah. Like, should it be 60 hertz or should it be higher?
60 hertz is okay?
60 hertz or which?
60, yeah.
So now some wide. The VM is not.
Do you have mirroring on?
Mm-hmm.
You have it on mirroring?
Middle or the middle?
Well, the display is going to be that one too.
Yeah. Yes, it is. But the point is that I don't know why I'm not having. Okay. No, it's it.
Do you have any display?
No
display yet.
Okay, continue. Okay, no.
The problem is on the Mac side still.
Yeah. Yes, actually it was in different resolutions. No.
But I can just pin with the camera.
We try 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, it's okay like this?
No, you have 5 minutes. In 5 minutes we start.
Okay.
Then so just try it.
But it's okay, the resolution is big.
No, the box is not. It's still not.
No, it's still green. Everything is green. When you start
Ah.
the lecture box,
So,
Everything is green, so I should suppose that it's related with the hertz, not maybe with the here
no, it's the problems on the Mac side.
in the max side. Display.
Settings. This one.
Oh yeah, thanks. Rotation, no, nothing. Rotation.
The arrangement.
There it is. There are more hertz. We can change. We can play with it. Let's try. That's it. Okay.
oh yeah.
Better?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay,
So
good. Then
perfect. Yeah, it's just about. Okay.
so after a few minutes of technical issues,
Yeah.
I'm happy to